Okay, what's going on? You're back with Dave, and what's the latest with the brutal Leicester belt assault situation? As far as everything that we know now, a 19-year-old from London named Rishal Vangu, or Scumbag Vangu, I think this geezer in the Night Tech Fleece here. He's now been charged in connection with the viral belt attack at the student block in Leicester. He's facing 9 robbery charges in total. 4 of these actually relate to the Leicester student block assault. The remaining 5 come from a second incident, which happened on that very same night in Harborough, about 13 miles away. I did cover that one in my previous Leicester belt incident video, so go and check that out on my channel if you haven't already. Essentially, Ritual has now been charged with 1 additional count of intentional suffocation. Police say that on the night of November, a group entered the Leicester accommodation, demanded money, and assaulted a victim. Right? Not long after that, the same group allegedly went to another address in Harborough, again, demanding money, demanding designer clothing, and essentially stealing from another group of people. In connection with both incidents, a second 19-year-old was arrested earlier in that investigation. He has been questioned and is currently out on bail. As of now, no further charges have been announced for him specifically. The company that manages the Leicester building, this is fresh information off the press, this is. They've actually confirmed that the charged individual is not a resident there. So, essentially, Mr. Vangu is just going up and down to residents that are not even his. And it must be a thing where... it must be a case of him understanding where he might know where they might only be uni students. He's clearly targeting areas where there are only uni students, potentially because people aren't on the same path as him, so aren't as likely to engage in the same level of violence that he does. Police are still actively investigating the situation and are calling for anyone with dash cam footage, phone videos, or eyewitness information from either location to essentially contact them. They also referenced a third incident in Leicester, and this happened in the Leicester City Centre that same morning, which they believe may be linked. So there's quite a lot going on around this area. It seems like the group of lads or this gang actually might have went on a bit of a crime spree that day. Right now, there are no additional arrests, no new suspects named publicly, and no updates suggesting more charges at this time. And essentially, we're just waiting around to see what's going to happen with these 9 charges. What's the outcome? Now, I wanted to look into, because I mean, the video is disturbing. It is disgusting, and I don't think I've ever felt that horrified, that disgusted, that sick. I can't even bring myself to watch it again. So for me, it's pretty bad, right? For me, it definitely ranks pretty bad. But in terms of the charges that he got, I was curious to find out what might he actually get charged with. Now, here's what the law says. For robbery, and that's basic or even street, under the guidelines of the Sentencing Council, the offence is a serious one. It's serious specified, with a statutory maximum of life imprisonment, which is crazy, right? However, if you think about it in the perspective that the victim, especially the victim who is essentially being assaulted by the belt, that video's gone viral. So if you think about the effect that might have on his life personally, that video might never come off the internet. Is he going to be able to live the rest of his life in calm and comfort? And if you definitely believe the answer to that is no, then obviously it makes sense that the life imprisonment matches the life sentence that he's given to his victim, right? Who knows what kind of mental health he might have to go through, PTSD as he grows up and he tries to live his life going forward. Now, back on the sentencing, typical custodial sentences for standard robberies, depending on harm, force, or even planning, often run in ranges from 4 to 7 years, all the way up to 12 to 16. For robberies involving aggravating factors such as weapons, use of dwelling entry, significant violence, and more, you're going to see those at the upper hand. Now, in terms of his offense, it does match the use of a weapon, right? The use of that belt, which the way that he used it in that video is definitely going to be considered as a weapon. In addition, there are reports of the gang having had knives, which is why essentially these guys were actually less reluctant to fight back and just more willing to hand over their belongings and try and hand over whatever cash or whatever wire transfer money they could get their hands on at that time. So potentially there is a chance that, the way I'm looking at it here, in my opinion, the judge will be looking at the higher end of this, the 12 to 16 years. It's not that they just took the possessions off the people. They brought weapons out, threatened them, held them there against their will, and did a couple more things to them as well, including making them dance. It actually bridges, if you include making them dance to the TikTok song, making them whip each other, you're bridging into areas of torture now. Right, that sounds like torture to me. That sounds like something that you do in one of those action movies. You know what I mean? Where someone's just it's just not real. It's something that you don't understand in real life. So the fact that this happened in real life, I'm not going to be surprised if the judge makes an absolute example out, and he's not. And I'll be very, very happy if he gets anything above life, anything life or above. I'm gonna celebrate. I'm going to throw a little party. I'm going to send everyone the address, and we're all going to celebrate the arrest of this man and the freedom of Leicester, because we definitely don't want to see him out on the streets. Carrying on with the sentencing, for a non-fatal suffocation, strangulation offences, new guidelines as of 2025, the maximum sentence is up to 5 years for a standard suffocation. The more serious, racially or religiously motivated or aggravated version maxes up to 7 years. So it's an additional 2 years if you essentially increase the motivations to something religious or something racial. Right? Now, the courts must apply the totality principle when multiple offences are essentially put into the same bucket, or multiple offences are involved. So sentences may run concurrent, so they run together, or consecutive, one after the other. And the difference is quite significant. If they do run concurrently, for example, it just means that the concurrent sentence. Now, if the sentences were to run concurrently, and what that means is the judge rules the Leicester block robberies were one group, harbour robberies were one group, suffocation was one group, then his sentences could look like 10 years, 8 years for the harbour incident, and then 3 to 5 years for the suffocation. That adds up to between 18 to 23 years, depending on harm or history. And if they choose to run everything concurrently, he might serve 10 to 15 years instead of the 20. Now, what could this mean for Vangu, right? Now, if the robbery offences are judged medium to high capability, and what that means is multiple victims, property taken, force used, dwelling, which is basically just kidnapping and holding someone against their will at another place, or going to another place against someone else's will and keeping them or yourself there, dwelling, and a second address, then especially given the volume of the counts, that could push the robbery alone, the robbery sentencing, into the 10 to 15 year gap. Right, which is quite significant. The suffocation charge alone could carry up to 5 years, depending on the severity and the evidence that they give. Combined, a judge can impose a total sentence somewhere in the ballpark of between 12 to 20 years, maybe more, but with the possibility of life imprisonment retained under the statute if the case is considered among the worst case robberies. Now, let's break that down. I think it would be the worst case robberies. If you run it down, was there multiple victims? Yes. Was there property taken? Yes. Was there force used? Yes. Was there a dwelling, second address? Yes. There was also a second incident, right? And there's also a viral attack. And I think that the viral bit is especially what's going to eat him alive in that sentence. That's why the judge is going to eat him alive, because I know there's a lot of pressure probably from the upstairs and, you know, people's bosses to say, I want this kid, make an example of this kid. I don't want this happening again in my area, in my country. So I think that's a good thing as well. If they're going to make an example out of him, and they better, right? They absolutely better, because what he did was beyond disgusting. What sentencing could he be looking at? He's facing 10 charges. Right? 9 robberies and 1 intentional suffocation. Robbery in the UK is a super serious offence. Right? Super serious. And you can get max in prison for robbery, right? Don't steal stuff. Earn your own money. What people normally get for this kind of thing, even without weapons, violent robbers with multiple victims usually land somewhere in 4 to 10 years. Right, per offense though. So it depends if they add the other offenses with the harbour incident, which happened 13 miles away, then they're probably going to have to add that to the current sentence. Right now, concurrent versus consecutive. Explained simply. A concurrent, all the sentences run at the same time, and it's like stacking plates on top of each other. So, for example, let's say he gets 10 years for the robbery, 8 years for another charge, and another 6 years for the for another charge. So in total, he's looking at 10 plus 8 plus 6. But the concurrent means he serves the longest one. So they just put it all together and they'll give him the biggest one. So if we go back and if they give him if they give him an 18 to 23 year sentence and his one's concurrent, he's going to do 23 years, which that 23 to life might be there depending on how he rehabilitates. I am all for. Let me know in the comments what you think the sentencing should be. I'm all for them keeping him for the rest of his life. They should keep him at least until the sick feeling in my stomach goes away. What does it mean if it runs consecutive? It basically just means different. Now, a concurrent means he serves basically the big one, right? The 10, the 8, the 6. He'll serve the 10. But if it's consecutive, that means the sentences are added together. All right, and this is the big one. So think of it like stacking potatoes side by side. So if he has the 10 years, the 8 years, and the 6 years, that's 24 years total. And this is used when crimes happened at different locations against different sets of victims, or the judge feels each act deserves its own punishment. Now, this is where it might separate, because does each act deserve his own punishment, or is he going to group them together and say it was a robbery? However, he robbed multiple victims and caused intimidation. There was strangulation. He went to multiple. He's also very silly. There's a video going viral on TikTok of them on the phone, basically snitching to themselves. Criminals are stupid these days. Like back in the day, you commit a crime, you shut up. Like, nope, I don't know nothing. I didn't see nothing. I don't know nothing. If you talk to me about that crime, I'll assume you're wearing a wire. These days, you commit a crime, go straight to your phone, camera. Yep, I did it. This is what I did. Bro, it's a man, and you've seen it with Ambush as well. Ambush has been arrested for going around with his phone, attacking, I think he attacked Kidavelli, blood all over the place, and he thinks what? He's just going to wake up tomorrow and nothing's going to happen from that. Stupid fool. You are a stupid fool, my friend. You need to learn. You need to learn something. So that's essentially, that's the latest, right? Now, if we apply everything that we've learned to the case, right? The robberies at the Leicester student block, robberies at Harbour address, a separate suffocation offence, multiple victims, multiple location, multiple acts of violence, 2 entirely separate crime scenes. This gives the judge strong legal grounds to treat them as separate episodes, meaning consecutive sentence could be far more likely. So you could be looking at 23 to 25 years, depending on what he gets for each separate crime. And it just goes to show you, man, like, you need to be careful what you're doing. And you need to be mindful how you treat others, because you're going to end up in this current situation. What does this mean in real numbers? Leicester block robberies, 1 group. Harbour robberies, 1 group. Suffocation, a standalone offence, right? So they could do something like 10 years for the Leicester group, concurrent within that group. 8 years for Harbour. Right, so that's 18 years, and another 3 to 5 for the suffocation, bring him up to about 18 to 23 years, depending on harm or history. And then if he chooses everything to run consecutively, he might get about 15 to 20 years plus, which is, I think he's going to get the absolute max, just because everything's gone viral. Everyone's talking about this. Everyone's disgusted, right? And it's painting the UK, it's painting Britain, it's painting Leicester, the universities, it's painting our culture, the whole scene is painting it in a terrible light, right? So I hope the judge makes the worst out of him. And I can't wait. Honestly, I'm going to celebrate if he gets the maximum sentence. Again, to the victims, I really hope you guys are okay. Do not shy away from seeking help when it comes to these situations. I know that therapy is not something that's usually spoken about, getting support for mental health and stuff in a lot of circles around uni and stuff like that. But this is a serious situation, and I don't think the effects of what happened might even be taken into effect yet, just because it's so viral and everyone's posting their videos. So I don't even know if the victims have had a bit of time to heal from this. So I definitely talk to someone if you need to, a family member, someone you trust. If it makes you feel better, go online, tell your story, whatever it is. But prayers, thoughts go out. If anyone has seen anything, please get on that appeal website. I'm going to post it on this video. Get on that appeal website and just send them whatever footage you have. I know that a lot of people probably have some footage on their phones. Just send it. And I've been Dave. Peace.